All right, welcome back to the Digital Careers Podcast. Today we're in the studio with Joe. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, how you going?
So, meet Joe, the owner of Joe's Printing. With a passion for photography and a key eye for detail, Joe embarked on a journey that began over a decade ago, aiming to bridge the gap he observed in the printing landscape of his hometown, Freo, Walyalup. Joe's Printing was born from a rich background of experience gained while working in darkrooms and digital labs in Melbourne, Naarm. He realised that, like many artists, he longed for a printing experience that went beyond the ordinary, one where he could sit down with the printer, discuss the nuances of paper, and meticulously fine-tune every aspect of the printing process until the results were nothing short of perfection. This quest for perfection led Joe to set up his first printing lab right in the comfort of his bedroom. Little did he know that those early prints from his bedroom studio would eventually find their way into major art collections and prestigious galleries. His dedication to the craft and artistic vision began to gain recognition. As Joe's printing gained momentum, so did the relationship he built with his clients. With each interaction, he honed his expertise and continued to deliver exceptional prints. It wasn't long before Joe's bedroom studio evolved into his first official studio space in Jolimont, where he operated for 7 years. Now Joe finds himself back in his beloved Freo, where his journey began. He has worked tirelessly to establish a printing lab that offers hassle-free service without compromising on the high-quality standards he upholds. As an artist himself, Joe understands the desire for a final product that's nothing short of perfection. In this episode, we welcome you to the world of Joe's Printing. So this will be an education session about printing for myself, but also for you. We'll cover Joe's story, how he got into printing, the do's and don'ts of printing, the printing process, gear, where Joe's work has been exhibited, and the artists he's worked with, and more. So, yeah, can you maybe take us back to
The bedroom?
yeah.
Or before that, when I was a kid getting into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll go right back. So, my story kind of began. I first went into a darkroom when I was a little kid. Someone showed me how to print, and I fell in love with it. Like, just seeing an image appear was magic. And I had an obsession then with like photography from a really young age as a result of that. So, like, I got together, made my own darkroom, started printing, found myself in jobs and photo labs, developing film, printing photos in darkrooms. And then the industry changed. Film was dead. Well, it was dying. And
did you think like printing was gonna go away at that point, or?
No, because there was digital prints. I wasn't sure if I was. I'm not that old that I was pre-digital altogether, but it was a shift. So the lab, they were getting smaller, less people working there. I was by the end, I was a 21-year-old working with everyone else was in their 50s or 70s. The age of it was shifting. I was thinking, do I have to learn the digital world? Did I want to learn the digital world? What do I do? So bosses shifted me into the digital. So I started learning it, realised there was the same physicality, the same love that you could get from a darkroom you could get in a digital lab, except the lights are held bright. Not as flattering. The red light's pretty good on you. And then there was that, and then, went on. I quit my job in Melbourne to go travelling again.
Where'd you travel?
That time I went to India. So I went to a nice long trip to India.
I'm actually hopefully going in a couple of months, yeah.
It's sick.
Yeah.
You'll love it. I've been there too many times.
Where do you normally go?
I've travelled all over the country, hey. From north to south, I really like the mountains. So I think the mountains were always my favourite. A place like Kashmir is just so beautiful.
What do you love most about India?
I think I went there expecting something and found what I got was something completely different. I didn't realise the diversity of the country, how big it really is. I was blown away. I'd never been I'd been in big cities, but I'd never been in cities where at 2 in the morning you're at an intersection in a city and there's 1,000 people around you. Like there was just so much. Or you'd be sitting on a street corner in Mumbai and like there's a slum across the road, a Ferrari ripped past down the road, there's a cow walking past you, and you're just eating the most delicious street food you've ever had. Like it was wild. It was so different, so crazy, and anything was possible, as they kind of constantly tell you. Like,
So it's just like so different from
everything.
Australia.
So different from here. And I think I was expecting something that you found in cities, certain areas, certain places were what I envisioned India to be. But then you'd go from north to south, and like the world just changed, the language changed, the way people look changed, the climate changed, everything was different, and it was like, I thought it was more uniformed and like similar.
There's like a lot of like language groups and different cultures.
Yeah, constantly. It's like, there's so many different, and they're so different. It's crazy how different, like, someone from like the Punjabis compared to like someone in West Bengal or something like that. They look different, they speak different, they eat different. It's pretty cool. I really enjoy it. And then, so getting back into my old story. So I came back to Perth after being there. Need to make some money. Mate of mine had a lab in Perth, and he was going. And he was moving away, and chatting to him, chatting to some other people. I was like, oh, it kind of sucks. Like, if Tony leaves, there's no more boutique print labs. And then, people kind of just convinced me to do it. I was thinking,
Were you doing sort of print jobs here and there?
Not at that stage. I'd quit a lab in Melbourne, come back to Perth, or got via India. Didn't think I was going to do that. I was planning to move to Adelaide to work in a winery. But then like kind of came, and I saw that Tony was leaving. There was a hole. People were kind of encouraging me to do it.
Because you do a bit of photography.
I came from photography as well.
Yeah.
So it was always labs and photography. Worked out quickly I didn't like being a commercial photography. And photography to me was more the art practice of it. And I like sculpting and stuff, but I didn't want to see myself making a living off using a camera. I don't know, it felt weird doing that. I did a bit of that and I just didn't like it. So labs were my kind of escape into that.
What kind of stuff did you shoot mostly?
Like commercially or privately, personally?
Just personally?
My personal work was like kind of like a lot of portraiture, but it was like a surrealist take on portraiture. So I do a lot of like very unorthodox darkroom practices.
Darkroom, okay.
So it was all very analog, and I'd like make sculptures and with photographic elements, like, I'd print on wet concrete and then shatter it where you didn't know where the image was, and then we'd end up with these shards of an image like embedded in concrete, or make photograms, solarize film, all those like very traditional, unorthodox practices, which, I kind of studied art and photography, and then managed to exhibit a bit when I was doing that, and then haven't really done too much, to be brutally honest, in the last 10 years on that front, but been focusing on digital printing, I guess, more than
on like other people's
projects.
I guess, do you get that sort of same excitement of printing other people's?
I do at times, yeah. Like you're working with someone, and it's just like, I don't know, I run off excitement from others a lot of the time, so it's like, someone's having the greatest time, they're seeing their dream come to life, and it's like, we're pushing it, we're like, I don't know, tearing it apart and building it back to make it exactly what it wants. I'm getting pumped. I don't know, it's real fun at times. It's the same as when you're making it and you're kind of seeing it come for yourself. Like, you're getting that same high.
It's interesting because like the person's already taken the photo, they've seen the photo on the screen, but then it's like it's another
thing level. Because depending on the screen you're looking at, how that's gonna kind of translate.
Yeah.
Then also it's like, so you're looking at it on the screen's bright, the screen's illuminated by the lights on the screen, and then you're like, oh, how about we go on a really flat matte paper or something, and then it changes the whole feel of it, and you kind of, I don't know, you're playing with the surface as well that's different. So you're moving it from the digital realm into the physical realm, and it's pretty much every paper is almost like, every paper will change the feel completely. Like,
how so? Like colour-wise, or?
Not really as much colour-wise, the vibe of the feel you get from something. It's more of an emotional thing, I find, with like paper. Like, it'll feel right. It can give you, you know, like a look around here. Like, say for example, that photo up there on the wall, like you probably can't see it, but it's a really dark picture of an echidna by Rebecca Dagnall. It's on a Canson Photographique crag, which is a really smooth matte paper. The black areas just fall into this velvety really kind of slick.
And I'm just surprised at how crystal clear it's come out.
Yeah, like that paper will give you that depth, and it's like, but then if you printed that on, say, a shiny paper, the black would end up being a bit more oily. It would look a bit more wet. It just wouldn't give you that, I don't know, that feel that you get from something like that. It's almost like I don't know, it's hard to explain at times, but you can kind of feel that it's right, and you're changing the...
It's interesting because when you've done something over and over, that's only when you can see like the nuances of it. Whereas like someone like me who hasn't like fully dived into the print world and fully like looked at and felt like the different papers and like seen how they responded, like I can't really tell. Like I can tell these are amazing, like clear images, but it's almost like any other industry. Like if you're just new into photography, you're not going to be able to tell what's a good photo or not, or fashion design or whatever. Yeah,
no, it's exact. That's why when people do come in, I like sitting down with someone, talking about the image, what they actually want to get out of that image, and then how we can work out a paper that will give you that feel. Because there's nothing worse than seeing an image die on a piece of paper, more or less. Like you see it and it's like someone's made a bad choice on paper, and you know that it might be a 2% difference, but that's what I'm living on, is that 2% that you improved it by or not. You know, it might be minute, but there's something about that little bit that you can just get it from looking good to looking bloody sick. Like,
so it's not only like when someone comes in, they're getting, you know, their stuff printed, they're getting they're looking at it through your eyes, and you're kind of giving you advice on what paper will do what and what colour will do what.
So most people will sit down, we'll do a couple of test prints, look at it on a couple of papers. I'll kind of get a vibe of what they were after, work out how I can achieve that. Then I'll be like, you know, do you want to look at this sort of, like, you want to look at a textured paper? How about we look at this one or this one? And then, and then I might like drop in like, hey, just like humour me for a minute, like let's look at this one.
Yeah. So it's like experimenting. Yeah. It's interesting, like it's the same creative process where you're like trying different things, you're seeing what's working, and then...
A lot of the time I'll look at it and I'll know what paper's going to be in the paper. I don't know, I've looked at so many images that you're like, I think this paper's for that. Yeah. Some people just straight up trust me and they'll be like, what do you think? And you'll be like, oh, it's this paper. But then sometimes it won't feel right. You'll print a test and you'll be like, no, I'm wrong. Like, let's go with this one.
So what are the kind of defining factors of like a certain style of photo that fits a certain type of paper? Is there something you can...
Nah, it's a bit more like, I don't know, like some papers will have like there are technical elements to it. Like, you know, some papers will have like a really good Dmax, so they'll have a good density, like black density point and stuff. They'll be able to hold variations of black really nicely, where some won't, and they'll just kind of block up the black areas. Some won't have a great colour space, so they won't be able to show huge ranges of colour. Like,
so Maybe you could talk about specific types of paper and then what they do best. Maybe like 5 or so.
Okay, let's go into say a huge shift I've seen in the last say 15 years or so was matte papers being able to have large colour space. So it was like Canson and Hahnemuhle really pushed that, where before, if you had red in an image and you tried to print it on a heavy matte paper, it would just be maroon and muddy and there'd be no separation. When so now
colour space is how well it holds.
It can separate colour and have a different, so if you look at it like a spectrum, how big that spectrum can be is where so you're trying to fit as much detail into a paper, and some will have a larger realm than others. So say the Canson Photographique, for example, I think it's because I'm looking at a print on it right now. It's beautifully smooth paper, quite white. The actual makeup of the paper, really smooth.
It's amazing how well it's held. I can't believe that used to be a white piece of paper.
Exactly right. It's wild, and it has its ability to change tone and hold tone and show those really subtle separations of colour and black, the black to white points, a huge range, those smoky greys that it holds, or I hear these really musty, that's on the same paper, the musty kind of oranges, and it's that array of colour in it, all those variations it's able to kind of keep without blocking them out as one tone.
Yeah.
I think that's the key.
What's the difference between, say, a cheap, because online you can get photos printed for cheap, you can go to Officeworks. Yeah. What are the main factors?
Most of those papers would be really cheap papers. Yeah. They wouldn't be archival for it's a big separation. A lot of my papers are, all my papers are archival. I'm using top line papers, top line inks, and all of that. So I know that the images are going to last. They're not going to change colour. They're not going to yellow. They're not going to fade. They're going to last for a long period of time before there will be any move. If you throw those papers into the perfect archival conditions, there will not be a shift in them, they say, for at least 220 years. So there'll be no fade, no yellowing, no nothing. It will look like the day I printed it, if it is stored correctly in the perfect conditions. If it's just pinned on the wall, for example, with direct light, no protection, that paper, I think they rated a 65 or 66. Could be 68 actually, the photography, for example. I think it's 68 if it's not protected with direct light, direct sunlight on it, then it shouldn't move.
Yep.
That's pretty wild, where I've got photos that have disappeared, from, when I've got them from the old photo lab with the 6x4s when I was a kid, they're gone.
Oh yeah. They just fade and
they fade, they yellow, they disappear. These papers, I know they're not going to do that, not in that time frame.
Yep.
So that's a huge difference. I'm using my main papers I use are Hahnemuhle, Canson. They're the two main brands. I also use quite a lot of Ilford, Origami. Hahnemuhle and Canson are two of the oldest paper manufacturers on earth. Hahnemuhle's been operating on the same site since 1584. That's
Why is Hahnemuhle so good and so popular?
It's the oldest. It's just been there forever. I think it's time. They've really, Hahnemuhle and Canson are in my opinion, the two best photographic papers and for digital printing. The range is huge. They've got a huge variety of papers, and they make some incredible papers that have they're passionate about paper and delivering on papers that are they've got some huge range. Hahnemuhle's got their natural range, the hemp and the bamboo, and then they go into the, the German etching, which is looks like an old etching paper, or they've got the photo rag, which is real smooth, or the burrito, that's kind of looks like an old fiber paper. Or you can go into the metallic, which is just wildly kind of shiny yet a beautifully eggshell colour. It's like they kind of push it. They use it's not only are they making technically good papers, they're also making papers that will withstand the conditions that we want them to withstand, where, your office works are just pushing it out on. You look at it and you question whether or not half the time it's calibrated, or profiled, when you look at some of the results you can see.
Yeah.
But it's also it's a very different type of printing. I look at it as two different spectrums completely.
Because a lot of young creatives, like, I guess one, they don't really have the knowledge of like the difference between a high quality print and a non-high quality print.
Oh, exactly.
And then I guess if they're having, they want to have an exhibition or something, and they got to think about like
the cost of it,
like the cost of printing and the cost of framing. It's like it's kind of easy to just
go
that route, but
it's why I really like to chat about it.
Yeah.
So I like to be able to, give someone all the information. We can find the best possible outcome, and I try to work out a way to get it the best possible price as well. So we can't I would much rather see like a young creative have a kick-ass show.
Yeah.
That looks good than.
Yeah, because
it builds it up.
Yeah.
It makes it better if everyone's going hard. It makes the scene better.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a lot of talented people around, and I'd like to, I like to give my little input to it all, and see it kind of thrive.
Yeah, and I think it's not even that much more expensive when you think about it, like Officeworks compared. It's like the print even you did for me, that was like $70 or something.
Yeah.
And you think about like for that small extra price, it like goes way longer. That's gonna I don't know if you remember the paper.
We printed that on. What did we print on? We printed. Was it on I think it might have been on. It was. Let me think. Oh man, mine's slipping me.
But like it would last
100 years.
Yeah, like 100 years compared to whatever, like a cheaper brand.
Was that on that was a mat. That was on the Cancer Photograph 8. Yeah, it was. So behind glass, so it didn't matter because we wanted to match a semi. Yep.
And I compared it with because I got one cheaply done, and like the difference was just like amazing. Like with the higher quality paper, it's just like if you're listening, guys, and you want to proto print it, like just do it properly, because like you can really tell in the detail and the color and everything. And I just had no experience with printing, so I didn't even know that there would be that difference. But then once I saw it, and then I was like, okay, you want to make that in like that small investment, and
exactly, it's going to last. It's also little things like I write profiles for all my papers that I print to, so I calibrate so the computer is talking to the printer in a way that I can look at it here and know how it's going to react to there on the different papers, and they're going to get the most out of those papers.
Do you use a device to calibrate?
Yeah.
What do you use?
So you're using to write a profile?
So like what device do you use to calibrate the screen
so my screen,
the printing?
Like I calibrate this is an ISO, so I've got like my ISO spider thing that I calibrate the screen to, and then I manipulate the color space of that screen to match the paper.
Yep.
So I'll pull out that light, which is neutral. So it's a D55, a D50 and D65 lighting conditions, which are like just optimum lighting conditions, so there's no casts and stuff. So I'll print out like a color card, one of these charts, to be able to see like how it's reacting after I've written a profile for the paper. So the paper will be good.
Yep.
I know the profile for the colours, and then I'll make the screen reflect the colour of the paper. Like I'll be looking at the white point of the paper, because like all papers aren't exactly, their white point isn't white as such, you know, like there's tone in it that you can match the white on your screen to look like that. So then, yeah, it's just like a big old process to write a colour space. So you change the hues of the each colour, and well,
to get it exactly how you want it.
So it looks right on my screen that when it goes to print, it'll look like that. I can change between different colour spaces and stuff, so I can see how it will react. And then write all that stuff for the printer as well, and for the paper, each individual paper, and they all have their colour space, and you then go through a profile, you profile it all, and everything talks to each other nicely.
Yeah.
And but then, like gone back to talking about getting people to kind of do it. I'm also like it's one of those things where you kind of want people to, like, even if people do come in, I generally will kind of open up and show them all the papers they want. Just even if it's not for that show that they're doing at that moment, but like they have an idea of what's possible.
Yeah.
That's the next time it can be, you know, they have a better idea and an understanding. Also, I don't try and drown people in technical elements of printing a lot of the time. I
think it's, you can't just bring them in, you can just show them, you just do little tests and you say, this is the difference between this.
Yeah. I don't think people care too much about, like, if they want to know any, like, it's like, you know, my lights are set to a certain colour set, like temperature, and there's all those elements in here.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. So like these LEDs are
calibrated to
make the whites really white.
To make the white and not have cast and not have colour light, like not have colour in the light.
Interesting.
So everything's always set to a certain thing. So it's kind of, I eliminate them, but I'm like, half the time I'm like, someone's coming to get a print done.
Yeah.
We want it to be, unless they want to know those things, and then I'll tell them like all the different elements of how to do something. But most of the time it's more about how can we make that image look good.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the most important thing. It's like rules are made to be broken. If we keep everything in the right place, we can throw them out the wall and like know how to manipulate them. Like, you know, I had a friend once ask me if I could. He was doing a work and he wanted to print something on 500-year-old legal documents, which were pigskin. I'm a vegetarian, I was still like, let's do it. And like, you know, then we kind of started playing and working out the best way. So I was like painting emulsion onto the paper and ended up having to feed it through on a board. And, you know, I'm in for the experiment as much as I am for anything. And we worked around how we could get it to work, even though it wasn't really in my normal wheel.
You just wanted to see it happen.
But, you know, because it's like I know how the machine works and how it will react. If someone comes with something a bit off key, we can be like, if we do this, we'll do that. So let's see what will happen.
What would you say to maybe a photographer or artist who wants to have their own exhibition, but they want to sort of like, they want nice looking prints, but they want to keep the cost down because maybe it's their first show or something like that?
There are ways around that. Like I try and like, I will talk to people about like sizing to optimize papers.
Yeah.
You know, like you look around, I've got all these different size rolls of paper. How we can fit a paper on, like images onto a roll without, you know, like a couple of, you know, a centimetre may end up costing you a heap more money because you're printing up a roll rather than across a roll. Or, so I always try and like encourage like to like, we can talk about those sort of things and like, you know, stuff drops in size so we can utilise the most amount of paper without creating waste There'll then be just, we can get cheaper prints out. Also, when it comes to framing, like there's physical sizes of materials, like the backing board, the glass, and you can kind of match things so you can optimize the amount you can get out of everything. Because by eliminating waste,
Yeah.
it's the easiest way to go about it. Like,
what are your thoughts on prints that don't have frames for an exhibition? Like you just put it on the wall.
it's not a bad option. It's a good option. Like, I used to install artwork a lot. I've installed hundreds of shows where I've pinned wood prints straight to the wall.
How do you normally install that? Just on like a regular wall? Like, what do you use?
Am I allowed to like hit the wall,
Yeah.
like put a mark into the wall?
Yeah, maybe give me an example before you can, and if you can't.
All right, like say for example, if I can put a mark on the wall, I'll probably either put a pin through the print if I've got a border. So just get like a really fine pin or a museum pin, and nail it straight through the top corner of the print.
What if the wall's like concrete wall?
Doesn't matter.
Like a pin, like what type? Like a special type of pin, or
Just like a
a
hard nut. Yeah, like no, well you do have these like, I don't have any on me, but like
what is a special?
like museum like pins, so they're also
okay.
known as German
And you can
pins.
sort of hammer them in.
Yeah, you can hammer them in. You can use small nails. Another way is like put a screw in the wall and use a magnet, like to put a plate up to magnet to the wall. You can use like 3M tabs and like plate a magnet board, then pin magnet to them. Yeah, you can literally tab prints and then hang off tabs. A million ways. If you got hanging wires, you can drop string down, run a batten across it, clip the work, and hang off the clips.
Yeah.
Like somewhere like the Moores building in Freo, hung shows there where we've, you're not allowed to mark, you're not allowed to.
It's got wires or something.
You got to hang wires, so you like throw the wires down, put a crossbar with like hard plastic, use the old bulldog clips.
Yep.
Clip the print in, remove these things so you can't see it, and then hang off that. Put one at the top, one at the bottom, and if you paint them white, you don't see them. But like, yeah, there's heaps of different ways to get it up without framing. I am a big fan of frames.
Yeah.
Frames
Do
protect the
most
work.
photography shows sell it framed, and then when they
No.
buy it, they get the frame?
No. Most photography, I find, will have framed and non-framed works
So a bit of
for
both?
sale. Like, you sell your frame works, you also sell them unframed. Like, personally, like, if I was selling work, I a lot of the time sold it unframed, unless the frame had, like,
Because I guess one of the things that might hold back a lot of creators is like they're thinking, oh, do I invest in this frame? And then if this work doesn't sell, then I've kind of got this framed work that I spent a lot of money on sitting there, compared to like, if it was unframed, then it's like less of a gamble as whether that work's going to sell.
I remember when I was exhibiting first, when I was still at uni, I actually had only 2 frames. I had 2 frames made, and if I was ever in a group show, I'd take the work out of the frame, put the work I'm exhibiting in,
Yeah.
and frame it up and
Just print it the same size. Like,
more or less, yeah. Cut a mat if I needed, throw it in, send it out, exhibit it.
and I suppose there's like good quality frames as well, obviously.
Yeah, some really good framers out there.
Like do you know much about framing in terms of like high quality woods and glass and...
Yeah, so you got different grades of glass. I know more about glass than I do about the woods. I refer to a lot of my framers, like friends that are framers, like just quite a few of them that I work closely with that know their stuff, and they're the people that...
Who do you recommend sort of in Perth to check out?
So there's like Case Frames in Freo, there's Plastic Sandwich in Jollymont, Art Presentations in Claremont, Art Framers in Claremont and stuff. They're really good, like as well. Like they're some of my favourites.
So if you're kind of giving recommendations for photographers having the first show, you reckon if they want to do it on a budget, like do high quality prints, but print it, like maybe have it on display without if you've got like a lot of photos, you can do it without
Even
frames.
having a mix sometimes works
Like a
really
mix.
well.
So you can invest in a few frames that you can reuse, like a high quality
Yeah.
frame you can reuse.
Yeah, there's that. It's always a good way, but it also depends. Like, depends on where you're exhibiting the work itself. Like, frames are good. They also have protection on the work. Like, having anti-reflective glass, for example, that's UV resistant is going to increase the longevity of the work. Yeah, it's going to cost probably double having normal glass. But then there's, you know, it also protect it from being scratched and damaged. Like, there is a gamble in putting the work in a public space that is exposed. Someone could walk past it and their jacket scratches it. But that can also happen to your glass. You know, like, I'd rather the glass but now with the digital print, you can always get another print made if it scratches. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a tough one. It really depends on the work.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's some good framers, and like a lot of them will look after you as well. Like, especially like make deals.
What
for
sort
shows.
of for your average print, like decent quality print, and then like maybe for example the same sort of style that I got printed, that sort of stuff, and then framed, like with like a pretty nice frame. What do you reckon that would
cost?
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't have too many ideas, but I reckon it's like an A1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like 77 for the print. So you're probably looking at, I don't know, like. I'd have to call up one of the frames.
Oh yeah, I think it always.
I think it'd probably be a few $100 for a frame, easy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's not. I guess that's not too bad if, you know, you want to have. Maybe you're having a show and you have like 10 works and like 3 are framed.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, something like that.
It
and
can
then
work.
and then you can like reuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Those
I've
frames.
reused a lot of frames in my life. As long as, you know, might have to get them patched up a little here and there, but, you know, you can get away with a lot.
Yeah, so I think that'll be a good start just for like if there's a creative, like a person, like a photographer listening and they want to have their first show, like have some printed just up on the wall and then maybe like 3 nice frames.
Yeah, it can really show, like, I don't know, it changes the feel of the work as well, throwing it in a frame. Sometimes, I don't know, some works you want the movement. Like, I just printed a show for Max Pam that's going to Photo Festival in France. And they're on, like, this really thin Japanese paper, an origami paper, and he wants them to... It's covering the wall, so they're going to be they're 2 images in a print, but he wants them to be like then there'll be like 2 on top of each other, so there'll be 4 images in a column, and they're going to cover like entirety of like these 2 walls. So I think there's about 70 odd images, like prints. Yeah, they're big prints as well, but like he wants.
How big?
I think they're 110 by 78 or something. Yeah, if my memory serves. And like so they're going to cover this space. Yep. But he wants the movement. So he wants the paper to be kind of flowy. So he's like, we printed on a lightweight paper to really get that.
So is the ink drips a little bit more? Or
ink looks like almost like they're kind of a bit like softer in a lot of the tones because it's a yellowy paper. But they're not as punchy as say, they're still pretty honest, but like, we want the paper to have movement. Yep. Where if you put it in a frame, it's very still. It's very kind of. He wanted the paper.
Oh, so he's not framing them.
No, they're all pinned on the wall. That's more what I'm saying. Like because he wanted that intention of like the image to be more movement in it. Okay. So instead of having it very like rigid on the frame, he went the opposite way for that work. And then behind that he's got like more traditional these old darkroom prints on exhibition at the show, and they're going to be, you know, framed, very kind of serious museum framing. Yeah. But then the big area will be the new work, which is he wants movement in the paper, so he didn't want a frame for it.
Okay. So yeah, it really depends on
the feel of the work as
the
well.
feel of the work and like the style of the exhibition you want.
So
That
it's
all
not.
comes into it. Because, yeah, just from someone who doesn't know much about this,
Yeah.
like I'm just thinking, oh, you just print a photo, you put it in a frame, like that's it. As most people think, like with any creative field, it's just like interior design, or you just whack some chairs or whatever in there, doesn't it? Like, so much more comes into the decision making behind the paper and the ink and the printer and the frame.
Well, I always think of like this old, this old quote that a filmmaker, Jean-Luc Godard, made about filmmaking. And he always said, a dolly shot is a moral statement. Something as minute as a dolly shot is a moral statement. And it's true, like every little element will build it up, and it's all as important as the last.
Yeah. Okay. But I want to sort of chat to you about some artists that you've worked with and shows that you've worked on as well. Maybe just start with Max Pam.
Yep.
So, how did you start working with Max, and then tell us about this recent show that sounds really interesting in France?
So Max was actually a lecturer of mine at uni. We became friends, and we've printed quite a bit together over the years, and it's fun, like working with Max. He's always got a good story to tell you, and like his photos are amazing, and just sit down and you talk to someone like him on a really like long wind when you're working with him.
Yeah.
It's real fun. You get a lot out of it, and
he's big on storytelling. Like, just I've got one of his books as well. Just like it's all about
journey,
story,
and diary sort of these documents.
Yeah, documentary style. It's cool.
It's this personal journey of his life, and he's got some wild stories as well. But like talking about India, I remember him telling me about. He walked to the Leh Manali highway the year it opened. Him and his wife, when they opened it up to tourists, him and his wife stole workers' permits and walked the highway and like things like that. He's just a guy that went out and just did some really crazy stuff and has some good stories to tell, and he knows his stuff as well. Like he knows the history of the media of the art form really well. He knows, you talk to him about photography and he knows the history. He knows what's going on now. He's got his finger on the pulse in a lot of it.
Yeah, okay, cool. And
which is cool.
His recent show.
Yeah. So that's opening.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
So that actually opens, it's in I forget the name of the photo festival in France. It's in it's in Normandy. What was it? I could probably find it. I'm going to make a butchery of a French term if I try, but
let's have a look. We'll check it now.
Max Pam.
International Photojournalism Festival, is it?
It's the Festival de Photographie.
Oh, it's in French.
I'm not going to give it a go. You can if you like. That's the name of the festival in the caption.
Photographie de Ville.
Yeah. It was called de Ville. But yeah, so it's in Normandy.
Yeah.
I think they're showing a new body of work that he made whilst there last year. And then they've also got some old photographs of his from the 70s and whatnot.
Yeah.
So they're more kind of, the traditional darkroom print show and the new works. Which also, interestingly, shot between, he's got film photos, he's got digital photos, he's got iPhone photos.
iPhone, that's cool.
I sent an image over.
Do you print many iPhone photos?
I actually print quite a lot. They're getting good. They're getting better. You can hide a lot more in them now than you used to be able to. They don't block up as quickly. And
what are your thoughts on iPhone prints?
if they're over sharpened, like they just fall to bits quickly. But you know, they're getting really good.
Yeah.
They're getting really good. Like I can't complain with them now.
Because I guess the iPhone has kind of become everyone's documentary.
It's become the camera. Like you're not pulling out an old like. You're not pulling out your 35 to snap an image. You're not pulling out your old digital point and shoot no more. You're pulling out that.
I mean, if they had like high quality enough lens that was good of a DSLR, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I know. We'll get there. Like watching the generations pass, man. It's crazy how much you can get out of them. But they still block up and they have this like weird noise that you see when they go big.
Yeah.
You can always tell. You can always pick them if you know what you're looking for. But yeah, no, it's pretty fun. It's I don't know. No day's the same.
Yeah.
You know, like you got so many different people. Like you know, you got.
Is that maybe one? Is that one of the most enjoyable things for being
Yeah,
a printer? Like you're seeing all the variety of work, and then.
And then you just get to decorate your rooms with work. Like I've had to put a ban on. Like I'm not allowed to buy any work at the minute.
Oh yeah.
I got so much artwork now over the years because it's easy to get. You're looking at it, you're like, oh, that's dope. I want that. How do I get that? Yeah, make a trade or buy it. You know, we do all that. But then you go into the other realm of it all, and you've got, you know, like from Max. You know, there's people like Ian Strange, for example, that I've worked with for a long time. And, you know, me and Ian we have a great time working together. It's
Yeah, how did you meet Ian?
He was printing a series. He was living in America. He's from Perth originally, and I can't remember why. He used to print with Tony, who was here. And then when Tony left, he had to, I can't remember why he was printing here. It was for a show, it was for a collection. I can't remember, but there was some reason he was printing in Perth when he was living in New York. And he contacted me and was like, need to get some printing done.
Yeah.
So he came in, we kind of sat down, we did some test printing, we got the work right. We printed the show or whatever it was, and it went off, and then we just started working together.
Yeah.
Well, he was like, you know, I like working with you, and I liked working with him, and we kind of just...
He's pretty internationally known now. Like, is he living in America now, I think?
Yeah, he's back on the east, he's on the west coast. But like, he's shooting some pretty cool stuff. He's shown me a few samples of it so far. The new series will be good when that gets pushed out. I don't know how far away that is. But like, you know, just before that, he did some work in Cincinnati. He did a new series of work. You know, in between, like, shot it, flew back to Perth. Me and him sat down and edited did a bit of editing. We did like color editing that was to get the prints looking the way he wanted them to look. We printed them. He flew them back to America to exhibit them over there. Oh. And then I sent him another bunch of work with him. But like, yeah, he came back to work with me and me and him have worked together for a while now that we kind of know the language that the visual language that we both
Do you kind of the more you get to know like a photographer and the art, the more you get to know like the type of paper that fits their style and that sort of thing. So
even
it's easier to like the colour.
Even the colour. Like you could, if I've worked with you for a few times, you can send me a work and I'll know how to grade it to make it look like your work. Like people have a very distinct tone, very distinct colours. They can vary slightly, but they always go back. Like you know, kind of the rough area. You know when a blue is too red, or a yellow's too like green. It's not giving you that warmth yellow, or the tone of a like that photo up there is Kevin Ballantyne. He just has these nice greys, and he wants that long greys. That one.
Crazy how crystal clear like these prints are. It's like, because I look at photos on a screen most of the time, and like the only time I'm seeing prints is like if it's in someone's house or if it's at an exhibition, but it's just like the detail you get out of print is like far beyond anything you get in digital.
it's always like it's a balancing act, really. Like for example, that paper, the honey mule satin, slightly soft, but it has this beautiful softness. It's not. It doesn't look out of focus. It just softens the noise slightly, and it just. But like those have like these nice grey tones. It doesn't hit black. It doesn't hit white. It sits in the world between it at all times.
Yeah.
And I know exactly like where he'll send me a file, and I'd know exactly the tone like that to make it look like even if it's unedited. Like he's given me his film to scan in the past. I've scanned a frame, and it's like you just tweak it to make it look like one of his photos because you know that's how it's going to be. Because you just know people's space really well, and then you send it off to them, and they're like, yeah, good, or they'll make their tweak, and yeah, it's about, it's like anything. The longer you work with someone, the more of that relationship kind of builds up, and you know how to talk to each other, how to work with each other, elements of that person, like, you can recall all that. Like, I can look at old proofs of someone's work that I've got archived away, so I can work out types of paper, look at series colours and stuff like that, so I can go back to it.
One of the most incredible prints that I've seen, I just have this memory of seeing it. It was like a huge square print of Jeff Walls when he was exhibited in the Art Gallery WA.
Yeah, that was back a while back.
Yeah, I think maybe I was still in high school or something like this, but just like seeing this huge print on the wall. I think it was a lot of his stuff's backlit.
Yeah, he does light boxes, 3-panel light boxes.
Yeah,
generally.
And I think he shoots medium format as well. Sure.
I'm pretty sure he's shooting medium. I think he is. Or he's shooting large, medium or large. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, maybe.
I can ask Gary.
Maybe large, but
the old director of the art gallery, Gary Defoe, he wrote he's written intros for Jeff Wall's work, books and stuff. Big fan. The leading a leader.
I think I might have seen a talk. Did he have a talk?
He did a talk upstairs at West End Workers Studios.
Yeah, he knew everything.
He knows everything about Jeff. I remember him coming in and being like, when he came in here once, he's like, "Oh, Jeff's got the same printer now."
He knows what printer he's got.
Oh well, they grew up in the same town.
Oh, okay.
So like they've known each other for a long time. And he was the art writer. Jeff Wall was the artist, so they met on that front, and he's written for Jeff over the years, and that was why Jeff Wall had the show here. And but yeah, they're multiple panel works, they're beautiful works. Jeff Wall's not my favourite photographer in the world. They don't do as much for me as others, but I remember going to that show, and I can still remember where every image was hung, in the space. It's like, I say I don't like him, yet I remember in detail. Like, I'll probably tell you what I was wearing when I went there. I don't know. It's crazy how that it can do that to you. It's almost like a religious. To me, like looking at art, it's a religious experience in ways. Like walking into a gallery is me walking into my church, more or less.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you go to galleries, you sort of find what works really sits with you. And that was definitely an exhibition that sat with me.
I think it sat with a lot of people, that one. It's a good one.
And just never seen a print that huge. Like, what's sort of the biggest prints you've done?
Those really big ones. The biggest work I've ever printed was, the absolute biggest one I was ever doing was a Perth Festival shot P-car. Castles, I think, was the artist's name, their name, I can't remember exactly. It was a whole back corner. It was a vinyl, 17 metres by 4 metres, I think it was.
Because isn't that bigger than...
It's bigger than the printer, but it was multiple panels.
Oh, okay, that's how you do it. So you got to... How would you even make a print that big? Do you you take them out and then you stick them...
Oh, these were literally on a material called Phototech, which is kind of recently, a show that had the big Phototech prints was at the Art Gallery of Australia with what was her name?
What did she do there?
It was a show that was it was called Star Machine, or
Oh yeah.
it was an Iranian artist. I've got the book for the show on the table over there. Rachel curated it. It was
Al Qasimi?
El Samini or something.
Al Qasimi, yeah.
Farah?
Where is it?
I can't remember her name, sorry.
For her first solo exhibition in Australia, Al Qasimi presents
Yeah.
Star Machine, an installation of photography and
Yeah.
videography.
So that had multiple works that were about 5 metres by 4 metres. They were printed on panels. So print continuous panels, cut them out, and then they would be stuck on the wall like that. And then I had images hanging over the top of them.
Okay, is that all done in here?
Yeah.
How do you do it in here? This studio's like, was it like taking up half of the...
So how I did that was I had the machine running. I put a table in between the desk and that table. So the print kind of comes across that table, then goes up to my other desk. I was cutting the length as it went. It's a dance.
How much, like if you go to Officeworks for your little printer at home, it's $50. How much is a carton of ink for one of these bad boys?
So one of these cartons, they're 700 mils. They're a shitload of money. I get depressed every time I buy a...
How much are they?
What is it? I can't even remember. I think it might be 450,
Jeez,
500. I can't remember. Maybe 350.
that's crazy. Oh, there's different colours. Oh, so each colour is like...
700 mils. I've got 11
So
colours.
each colour's like $450 for that?
Yeah, I think it's about $4.5 grand for a set of inks.
Jeez,
Something like that. I can't remember.
that's crazy.
Man, a little part of me dies every time I buy ink.
Yeah.
But it's like, the same. That's where most of my money goes, is ink.
Yeah.
And that is where you're paying most of your money in a print.
Epson, eh?
Epson, yeah. I'm a big Epson fan. I don't know.
Do they make the best inks in the world? Who makes the best inks?
Well, like with these sort of printers, it's mainly you got your...
Oh, you got to buy it for the brand, and then Epson makes...
So Epson's making that printer,
Yeah.
which I like. I'm a big Epson fan. Other people use Canon
What are like the major...
players.
What are the big
So the
printer
big
brands?
Canon and Epson are the two biggest for photographic printing. Then you got, your brothers, your HPs. They're not as accurate. They're not as good. Those plotters, they're good, but they're not they don't have the depth of colour spaces. A lot of them I find. And then also, I've used an Epson machine for
10 years.
10 years. I've always owned Epson, but prior to that, working in other labs, I reckon we're going back about closer to 20 years that I've been sitting at Epson machines and never sat at any other digital printers besides Epson. I've used old jet machines, the Pegasus and things like that, which are sick machines, like jets, but that was a lifetime ago now. A different version of me, longer hair and shorter beard. Skinnier belly.
Can you talk about the process behind Sarah Barber's work, who exhibited at Dark WA?
So that work kind of came about with the curator would hit me up about the prints.
Yep.
We discussed it for a while. At the time, I wasn't actually really familiar with Sarah Barber's work. A couple of emails go past. I asked for a line of information, what paper does she normally print on, and this and that, and sends me some files, gives me some color reference and things, and then from that it's a kind of more communication with other people about, because she obviously wasn't here during the print process.
Yeah, because she wasn't here, so how did you sort of communicate?
Via email at the time, we were talking, and then other people were...
I guess you had to trust your eye.
Trust my eye on the print, as well as other people that had seen the work exhibited.
okay.
And did you send me a lot of the time with that sort of stuff, people will send me
Oh, references, like little cutouts.
little prints of things. So I'll get some form. I'll be able to physically look at something and be like, "This is where I've got to be." But if I don't have that, it's a gamble. Like I'm looking at a screen image, I'm hoping that the calibration is accurate.
Yeah.
But in all accounts, she was happy with the print, so that's all that matters at the end. So from what I heard, she was, because we spoke via email at the time, and then
Was there a particular process with the colours and the
hers were actually quite easy, to be honest. Like it wasn't. They were nice files.
Yeah.
Which was, someone tells you they wanted 1.5 by 1.5 meter print. I get a bit worried sometimes because,
in terms of files, like,
Yep.
if you have like a 2 megabyte image,
it's hard to say how big you can go.
so you don't like,
But like, say for example, a color image is going to be at least double the size of black and white image in megabytes because it's got more information.
Yeah.
If you got huge separations of color and like huge tonal range, it's going to be a larger file than something with a little, with like a few color, quite desaturated or something. A sunset with huge rates of reds and yellows, it's going to be bigger than just a really two-toned image. Like if I took a picture of you here and then a picture, same sort of dress or whatnot, behind a colourful background, it's going to be way bigger.
Yeah.
So it's like without looking at an image, it's hard to gauge. You can push the hell out of an image though. There's ways of like manipulating it. So the old rule of thumb is 5% intervals, you increase it by.
Yeah.
Sharpening, blurring, adding noise as you go
Oh, okay.
until you hit your size.
Have you
Done some big upscales.
Have you seen what AI is doing with
keep an eye on it.
imaging? Yeah, like
It's getting good. It's getting better. So it's like, it's good. It's one of those things that I'm glad AI is coming in.
Yeah.
It's getting good, and it's like it's going to make my life a lot easier. When people aren't going to come with like a thumbnail and ask me to make it a wallpaper.
yeah,
If AI can make it bigger, that's beautiful.
yeah. It's good technology, but sort of like, what's like the ideal size, say, of like average color image?
So
It's like ideal to make your life easier. How many megabytes do you?
oh,
would you
really
say?
varies. It's like you generally want, in an ideal world,
Yeah,
I'm printing something at 300 DPI, which is 300 pixels per inch.
Yep.
So if image, in relation to the image, is the amount of pixels I'll get. So say like a 6x4 image. It's what, like 1200 pixels? Is it 1200? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Right, so it's more on that size, and
okay.
however that relates to size.
Oh, okay.
Bigger the better, but if I can print it at 300 or as close to, I'm happy. But sometimes, there's always movement.
Yeah.
Rules are made to be broken. I've done some pretty big prints on some pretty small files. But then in saying that, sometimes I'm pretty honest with it. I'll be like, I'll jump into it, have a look, and be like, no, I can't do that. That's not going to work. It's going to look like garbage. It's like, how about we go this size? Or can we do it like this? Because that size
Doesn't work. Yeah.
it's not going to work. I don't want to take your money. I don't want to print something like that and
Yeah.
it look crap. How can we work around this? How can we solve this without compromising?
What's your thoughts on like print on demand stuff? Like, there's a lot of services, and they're like, oh yeah, printing, framing, like.
Yeah. Well, look, they're serving their market. All power to them. I reckon we slow it down.
Yeah.
And I don't want to just, also I'm really conscious about waste
Yeah.
and the environmental impact of all of this.
Yeah.
So I don't want to just produce for the sake of producing. It's
You
why
wanna do like quality over
I want
quantity.
quality over quantity. It's why I I don't really like. I give people the best possible price, so they don't have to print out an edition. Like I have no minimums and no maximums because I don't want people to have to, to save a couple bucks, have to print 100 or something to sell out an edition because then they could be sitting there for a long period of time. And it's like print them as you need them.
Yeah.
We get to see each other more. It's great.
Yeah.
Like it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Things aren't going to get damaged. It's not more things going into the world that
Aren't needed, yeah.
aren't needed yet.
So the usual process for photographers, say like they sell a work, say they have an online store or something, they make a sale and then they like come in, give you the file.
A lot of the time, actually, a few people that have online stores, we've already sat down and discussed everything. We've had our consultations. I've given them my prices, that we've done all the testing. I've got the files archived away. They might send me an email being like, this name file I sold, this is the size. Some will be like, can you send it off to this person for me? And I'm like, no worries. Bing, bing, bing. It's already set up to print like that. And print it out, cut it up. Got to take it to a framer, send it off for them. They might pick it up and,
So you could actually, you'd print it and then you would take it to a framer as well?
Well, I can get it to a framer, throw in a courier or whatever. If I'm going to visit them, I'll drop it off. Sometimes, it's a... Speak to a lot of these framers on a regular basis. We're always working together.
And do they ship stuff out or do they, like, as well? Like if you printed something and you sent it to the framer, like, do framers usually ship stuff out or...?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Like people send things that just, cost whatever it costs as well to do that sort of stuff. But like normally, people send stuff for you, organise it, and you can make things happen easy enough. Try to simplify everything as much as you can, really. Like, make it so the creator doesn't have to think too much about that process. Make it as streamlined as possible so they can do what they want to do and they can focus on making work rather than having to... I think that's where those on-demand things are becoming really popular because you don't have to spend the time.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it was so easy for me to, when I knew nothing about printing or whatever, just like, it looks cheap, you don't have to, it's quick. It's just easy, bang, bang.
Yeah.
But then the product itself just was pretty crap.
Yeah.
But I see why people, who don't know about printing do it because it kind of looks easy, but it's just better to, like, I just advise everybody listening, like, actually come in, chat to your printer or whatever and, like, have a look.
Work it out, see what's possible.
Yeah.
There's so much things that are possible with it. Like look, I don't. There's now. I'm like, since I've started, there's a few other labs around even in Perth, and it's like great. Like, there's more options. There's more people doing it. There's people that care. Like,
has printing changed over the past 10, 20 years much?
Yeah. Materials have changed. Like printers have changed. Like, you look at that, I'm waiting for Epson to release a new one, the big ones. When did I buy that? I bought that like 6 years ago.
And they just print faster, or what's changed?
It changes like the accuracy of the head. Like they changed the ink makeup in this one, so I've got another printer at the back there, my old one. The inks have changed. These ones have got a better UV resistant than those ones. They've got, different greys. They changed the grey makeup of the printer. Instead of being a black, a light black and a light black, they've gone to a black, a grey, a light grey and a dark grey, so it's giving you an extra channel of grey tones that have increased your density in your blacks and like your ability to create detail in dark tones, and like things like that will move. New papers will come out and things like
So do you think prints are getting more detail and better colour and just lasting longer sort of thing, or
a lot of it's in archival elements.
Okay.
So that you can achieve a lot more, you can also... But it's like detail and colour aren't always necessary. Some images, you want a low colour space. You want them to be soft. It's always about intention and how you want to push it to, because there's no one. Like, that's why I've got so many papers, because there isn't one size fits all approach to it.
So printing like a huge print isn't always the best thing for an image. Sometimes like a small one looks better.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes you're like, it's also more intimate at times. Like something this big,
Yeah, okay.
it's quite intimate. Like, you're gonna have to walk right into it instead of
Right.
looking back, and like, that'll change your relationship with the. It's a lot about that, and it's like, what do you want that to do? It's not only like, let's just print as big as we can bloody print it. Like, bigger is better is not always the case. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. It's about finding that right. Also, how does it sit in the space that you want to show it in?
Oh, okay. So many things to think about like that. I didn't even think like, what is the size of the gallery? What feeling do you want from the person looking at the image? How far are they going to stand away from the image?
So I remember a friend of mine, I printed a photo for him, and he wanted to print a 6x4 image, so this big, but he wanted to print a metre by a metre square. So we printed this massive bit of paper, so it looked huge. And you just have to walk in and see this tiny little image. And it was great. Like,
it's kind of like the response you get.
well,
Like
yeah.
you can make it a bit, I guess it was maybe a bit humorous. Like,
Oh, it was quite humorous. It was him lying, like, I think, pulling a stupid pose on a bed, like. But yeah, it was good. It was a good image.
yeah, so many things.
Like how you can change things, and then, yeah, like if it's, I look at that and I'm like, if that image was small, it wouldn't play.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
And if it was like massive,
yeah,
it just.
it would dominate a room. It would be scary. Where then, like Ian's work sits nice as a big work. Like, it doesn't work as it wouldn't work as something that's this big. It works as something that's going to fill a space.
Because you want to like take in that.
Yeah,
The
those
image.
these and all these, like, I don't know, like a lot of like that like the Dallason's not great, but like when you're looking at something like the Island series, which is like the SOS and the Help Houses, when you're looking big, you see little things, like you see paint dripping in the lettering. You can see that it's like physical and real, rather than just.
And for me, his work, it feels the same as Jeff Wall's work. Very cinematic. Like when I look at Jeff Wall's work, it feels like I'm watching a movie. Like it's he talks about how he kind of brings that sort of fantasy element and cinematic element into his work. Same with Ian's stuff. Like I feel like I'm watching like the opening of a film. So like it's like when you sit in the cinema, like why is that screen so big? Because you want to
take in all those little. So I think it's like. It was like, I remember when he did the Dallison series, which was the screens behind the house. I was down there with him, and he was shooting it.
Was it in, where was that?
That one was just down in the southern suburbs.
Oh, okay.
It's past Spearwood and all of that. I forget the name of the actual suburb that it was in, the only house left, pretty much. And watching the performance, because the video work, but watching it in real time, I was like, I remember saying to him, I was like, I don't think this will work as a print series. I didn't think it would give you the feel that you got from it being a physical thing that was happening in front, and the lights all changing. I was like, nah, this is stupid. It won't work as a print. Like, that was amazing. Like, can't turn that into a 2D object. Then we did the prints, and I was like, they look pretty damn good. Like, pretty happy with how we've got them to look. But like, I didn't think it would translate as nicely as it did, but like it changed into a different thing. It was like, I saw that and I was like, that's amazing. Like, it was performance.
Were you kind of like remembering how you felt when you saw it in person and then translating that onto it, or you just...
No, it became something completely different.
Oh, okay.
So it was like looking at something at a different time frame, it was a different thing. Looking at it still was a different thing. Completely different to when it was dancing. It just changed the whole spectacle. And so I look at them in two different ways. And now I look at that little sketch, the concept drawing. I look at that differently. that reminds me of driving in there rather than any of it, but so to see the screen first time I saw it, but like, yeah, the photos and the performance of the video work were just, in my opinion, two vastly different works in a way. They obviously talk to each other because they're the same thing.
Yeah.
But the feel you get from them are very different.
Can you talk about sort of the selling process for prints? Because
yeah, it's a tough one.
Like, is because like when I started, I didn't know much. I was like, oh, just you know, I can print like as many as I want. But then sort of going to a few shows, what generally happens is they have like a limited edition sort of thing.
Yeah. So the editioning process actually originated from plate printing. So where a plate would wear out over time. So they would do a print run and you'd see that, you know, that was the first print on the plate, or that was their 100th print on the plate. It's obviously the plate's wearing out, more likely to be inconsistent. So that was the origins of the edition. So the lower the edition number, the more rare and the better it was. That's where it originated from. And then it moved into a different realm where it became more of the norm in the arts, that things were editioned. It becomes more valuable. It's more about that. It's more about an edition is something that is more valuable because it's limited. There isn't going to be a million of them. There's going to only ever be, you know, if it's an edition of 5, there'll only ever be 5. If it's an edition of 4, it'll be 4.
And usually there's only 4 and they don't print like another one.
You normally have APs, so an artist proof, and then your edition.
Okay, so there can be like a first edition, second edition sort of thing?
Yeah, so you have first, second, third, fourth, however many editions you've got, but you always have an AP normally, an artist proof.
That's just like a written...
You just write AP on it.
So AP1, AP2?
No, just be AP. So you have an AP.
Yeah.
Some people do 2 APs, but that's normally the artist proof. So it was like, traditionally speaking, it was the original that you would show a printer. So like you had your artist proof. If it was a plate print, and you went to a different printer, you'd take your AP so they knew the colours that you wanted to make their print work and things like that. So people had a reference point. And the AP is also handy. If you sell an edition, you can still hold a work that you can show.
So does AP...
It's just the artist proof.
Artist proof. And...
You can sell it, but it sits outside of that edition.
Oh, okay.
So you can sell it. It's just like another edition that you can add on to it, pretty much. But it's a handy one because it means if you've sold out the edition and you have an AP, you can exhibit that work without having to ask to borrow it and things like that.
Oh, okay. So AP is like
it's just the artist proof.
The artist's work, and then the ones they sell is different from that.
Yeah, it'd be your editions.
Okay, your editions.
But the artist proof normally sits out. You can sell an artist proof.
Yeah.
As well, but it's just a nice way to have a work
of your own type
that you can keep. Yeah. So a lot of people will do that.
You usually have one artist proof, and then you can have like 1, 2, maybe 3 editions of a print.
Maybe 5, and some people have more.
But say like the first edition, that'll be like the more rare.
Traditionally, nowadays it's pretty much all. That was the old school of it, when like the print would actually get worse as the edition run went on. So that's why the first edition was rare. Nowadays, it doesn't really matter. Like I can print the same photo 100 times and you're going to get 100 identical prints.
Yeah. Where
back in the day, that wasn't possible.
Oh, okay.
When you were using a plate, because like say a metal plate that was pressing that image, that plate's going to wear out. And then it will slightly get softer corners, it'll get...
Do you think photography is kind of generally valued less than, say, a painting because a painting will last longer than a photo? Like a photo, as you're saying, 220 years, but a painting...
Well, you can also restore a photo.
How would, can you restore that print, or they would just secretly just print it again and reframe it?
No, you can restore that print.
So would you scan it or?
Well, you can do a digital restore where you scan, retouch it. You can do an analog.
Do you put it back through the printer?
No, you just like scan it, retouch it, reprint it. That's one way. Or you can paint it
Oh,
in.
okay, gotcha.
So like say these sort of things. These are from the darkroom days. My spotting pens, colouring pencils for it, all my paints. So I can these organic paints and things like that.
Oh, so you literally retouch with pens?
Yeah, so you can retouch. These are all these are just old ones I used to use in the darkroom, but like I can restore an image by painting it back in.
Okay.
You know, it's where those terms like airbrushing and stuff came from. You used to physically paint the skin in. So you'd sit there with your airbrush and clean it up, doing that, your spots like in, you'd paint away lines and stuff like that. You'd paint colour in if you needed it.
Okay, so because I think they do that with the paintings as well. So they will
You can do all that
retouch a
stuff.
painting and it will maintain its value, and with photos you'll just
You can do things
retouch
like
or
that.
reprint or.
Yeah, digital works are a bit easier nowadays because you
Yeah.
can reprint a lot of them. Like I have reprinted things that have faded for collections in the past, where the old school of having to physically, especially if the artist's still alive.
Yeah.
But there's a lot going into it all. Like it's a big game, really. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people are kind of working that out, and it's in a new sphere with the digital coming so close.
Yeah.
But
Have you seen those TVs that people have on their walls and it looks like
a painting.
a painting? What are your thoughts on those?
They're dope. They look cool, right? Like they're so skinny. So my problem is I don't like the look of a TV in a house.
Yeah.
So when it hides as a framed work, that looks great. I think first, like they're good for that.
Yeah, I've seen some galleries even have kind of screens around, and they just instead of getting stuff framed. And I was thinking, oh, that's a good way. But then, talking to you about, choosing the size of the frame that that you want to pick to kind of fit how you want the person to feel, or the colours. So it's like, again, it's kind of like trying to shortcut that process as well.
And sometimes a screen's a really good way to show work because, it might have elements that the screen is more suitable for that work than I was like talking to a friend of mine, they were making new work. And we were discussing different ways of presenting the work, and we talked about light boxes, because we were talking around in circles to make it look like a screen. Until we came to the conclusion that the best way to show the work was on a screen, was to put a TV screen up there. And we're like, we could make a light box and I can print on a light box film, or we could print on, an ultra gloss, so in the mounted aluminium, and it'll look sharp and clean, like it's almost screen like. And then we kind of were like, well, why don't you just do it on a screen? And like, of course, like, why fake what you can do physically? Like, it's always about that. That's the most important part, is about hitting the point that you want to hit.
So it's kind of, printing is about experimentation. It's about knowing the feeling of your work and how you want to communicate that.
That's how I look at it. Like I look at it, it's like it's about making. My job is just to facilitate someone's idea, and I've got to study those papers and those inks and how they all work in order to someone can come in, give me a concept, and I can make that concept a reality for them. And that's more or less where I and then make sure it will, it will last, it will look good, it will, you can sell it to a collection and they're not going to worry about using a dodgy material, like, collections and stuff. So, like, if you have, like, cheap papers and stuff, if it's not intentional, they might ask you to reprint some collections. They won't buy it as a result of that, because they're like, to collect, there's something that they want to keep for a long period of time, and if it's not stable, they're going to be like, can you reprint it? Especially with digital, it's become a new phenomenon with it. With all like, can you reprint it? We want it redone because we don't want it like that. We're not gonna buy it if it's like that because it's not good because of this, and that.
Yeah.
So there's also those elements to it, and it's just making it all a reality.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having this chat with me. I think, definitely a lot way more to printing than, I thought, and I learnt, so much more today about like how important that process is. And I think for anyone listening, like just that communication with your printer is important. Like tell them about your work and how you want to communicate that work, because there's so many different things that come into it. Like I think maybe come into your printers with an open mind. Like don't be set on a certain size or something like that. Just communicate with them and then like see where it goes. I guess it's that creative process between you're creating something together. Again, you have your work, but then when you print it, it's just like again it's something else.
Yeah, you just I look at it like that. We're just I can't even talk. Like words don't even work anymore. Yeah, we're just helping the dreams come true.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, and
thank you.
Where can people find you?
Hey, that's a tough one. You can find me at Joe's Printing on the Instagram.
Instagram.
The Instagram's a good one, and the Facebook, and then I've got a website now. I made it the other not too long ago.
Yeah.
You can find me at Joe's Printing, or down in Fremantle at 45 Cliff Street.
Awesome.
If you want to stop in and say g'day.
Yeah, come and have a chat. All right.